under the wire.
Please join me in Gasho. Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs.
Good morning, everyone. Uh, Welcome to those who have come here in person for this morning service, and also welcome to those who are joining us by Zoom as well for our regular Sunday service. And we'll begin with a moment of silent meditation, followed by the recitation of the name of the Buddha, or the Onenbutsu.
Please join me in Gasho. Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs. Next, we'll be reading our pledge, which those who are here, you should have a handout of it. And those on Zoom, I have it up on the screen now. So we'll read together our pledge. Our pledge. Breaking out of my shell, I shall carefully share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall be open-minded and act accordingly, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I shall share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life we have received, I shall live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who continues to emancipate all. Namamidas. Okay, next we will have the sutra chanting, and we're actually going to be chanting the English version of the Shoshinge, which you'll find on page 106 of your red seiten. So you could just follow along the English chanting of the Shoshinge. And for those of you on Zoom, I have it up on the screen. Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs. Working of Study the inhabitants and other qualities. On this foundation he brought forth supreme aspiration, awakening the great vow, all embracing, vast and rare, through ages of reflection, determining his vow. He reaffirmed his calling name would be heard everywhere. Thus he radiates his light, immeasurable and boundless, unhindered beyond compare, a dazzling, glorious blaze, light that purifies the mind, light of joy and wisdom, light unceasing beyond thought, far beyond description, brighter than the sun and moon, illuminating countless worlds. Every being, everyone receives this radiant light. The calling name of the primal vow properly directs us. The vow of sincere and trusting mind becomes for us the cause. Equal awakening is attained, confirming great nirvana. Because of the vow's fulfillment, nirvana is surely attained. The reason that Tathagata came forth into our world was to teach Amida's primal vow, boundless as the ocean. Now beings also boundless in this evil impure age should respond in trust and take to heart Tathagata's true words. If for the briefest moment the mind of joy awakes, we realize nirvana, though our minds remain defiled. Worldly wise dharma haters all will turn and enter as rivers pour into the sea, becoming of one taste. The all-embracing mind light always shines on and protects us. The darkness of our ignorance already has has dispersed, yet craving anger, greed, and hatred, like dark clouds and mist, always cover up the sky of true insight and faith. As clouds and mist obscure the sun, covering its light, yet beneath them pure light radiates, no darkness can be found. Receiving faith with reverence, discernment, and great joy, without delay we leap across beyond the evil realms. When ordinary beings, whether full of good or evil, hear and trust Tathagata's all-embracing vow, Shakyamuni calls them all superior, clear-sighted. Such people are correctly named white lotus flowers. Amida Buddha's primal vow established Nembutsu, yet we who cling to evil views with arrogance and pride can never easily receive the truth with joyful faith. There is nothing that could be more difficult than this. The masters of the teachings from India in the West, and all the noble monks who lived in China and Japan, explain to us the great sage came with a true intention to clarify the primal vow accords with everyone. Shakyamuni Buddha dwelling among Lanka, to the multitudes foretold one day in India south, Mahasattva Nagarjuna will appear in this world and destroy dualistic views of being and non-being, transmitting Mahayana, the Dharma unsurpassed. He will realize the stage of joy, be born in the land of peace, and teach that arduous practice is like struggling down an endless road, while joyful trust in the easy way is a peaceful voyage at sea. With mindful recollection of Amida's primal vow, without design instantly we reach a certain stage, and with kindness of the great compassionate vow. Bodhisattva Vasubandhu in his discourse stated that he had surrendered to unhindered light, relying on the larger sutra. He revealed true virtue, made known that with a great vow we leap over birth and death. Through the power of the primal vow, transferring us its virtue, he revealed the single mind, delivering all beings, entering the all-pervading precious sea of merit. We surely will be numbered with the great assembly, allowed to reach the lotus world. We realize true suchness, true Dharma nature is attained clearly without doubt. We play in the forest of passions, yet manifest wonderful powers. We enter birth and death's garden, transformed to benefit all. The king of Liang in ancient China, revered Master Tanwan, and daily bowed toward his teacher, a bodhisattva in his eyes. When Master Bodhi gave Tanwan a Pure Land text, he burned his Taoist books and placed his trust in the land of peace. He wrote a commentary on Vasubandhu's discourse, revealed cause and effect of birth, both come from the vow. We depart and we return because of other power. Only through the mind of faith is Buddhahood assured. When the mind of faith awakes in ordinary beings, we are made aware that birth and death is nothing but nirvana. And when unfailingly we reach the limitless and radiant land, we will save the myriad of beings everywhere. Tao Cho discern on the noble path. Attainment is hard to confirm, and clarify the Pure Land as a sole way to break through. Criticize self-practice of the myriad good works, and urge us only to to recite the perfectly virtuous name. He kindly taught us face aspects, pure mind, single and constant, guides us as the Dharma declines toward outward form and extinction, meeting the all-embracing vow, though doing evil all our lives, we reach a world of nurturing peace, realize the fruit of enlightenment. Shantao alone shone light upon the Buddha's true intent, empathizing with those who practice good and with the rebellious and evil. He made it clear that the radiant name is a cause and condition for birth, clearing the way for all to enter the Gracia wisdom, the primal vow. We then receive the diamond mind, one and indestructible, through one moment of joyful thought, in oneness with Amida. With Vaidehi we acquire faith and joy and wisdom, awaken to the way things are eternal and at peace. Genshin studied fully every teaching of the Buddha, chose refuge in the peaceful realm, imploring all to follow, divided deep and single faith from shallow sundry practice, distinguished birth in the true pure land from provisional attainments. He taught that even evil ones should simply say the Buddha's name. I too, he said, am fully in Tathagata's embrace. Though my defiled and anxious mind prevents me from perceiving it, the light of great compassion shines upon me ceaselessly. Our old master Honen understood the Buddha's teachings with compassion for all ordinary beings, good or bad. He caused the true essential way to flourish in these islands, proclaimed the selected primal vow throughout this evil world, retained to samsara's house the wheel of birth and death, results when doubt and lack of trust becomes the mind's foundation. But when the mind of faith awakes, we are quickly made to enter the home of pure tranquility, transcending all conditions. The Mahasattvas and Masters, through teaching the sutras, have saved countless beings so defiled and corrupt. Now in our own time, both lay people and monks, let us trust with one heart what our noble masters have taught. Nama virtue of Amita's vow is shared equally by all, together attaining awakened mind. We are born in the land of Namandos, namandos, namandos. Namandos.
Okay, thank you. And give my Dharma talk now, Dharma message. Thank you all for chanting along with that. I know some of you might still not be that comfortable with chanting in English, but I think it is an important aspect of going forward. Not to replace the Japanese chanting, but to augment it, to add to it. In fact, I really commend the Hawaii Kyodan. This is the Red Satan that the Hawaii Kyodan has produced. And in there, I think that they produce the best chantable English versions of the various sutras. And what's interesting, if you look at, where's that? Anyways, in here, it does give acknowledgement. So one of the, I think it was the Jusege, might have been the Jusege, what's the Jusege? One of the English chants is actually a translation that my father actually worked on. And I think it was the Jusege. Anyways, nonetheless, so I think of all the temples throughout all the three Kyodans, Hawaii, BCA, and Canada, we probably do the most English chanting of all the temples. Even though they have the English chants, a lot of temples still prefer not to use it. And for myself, I find the English chanting is a good way of understanding what we are actually chanting. I mentioned before, periodically we have high school students come and visit, and on one occasion we had from Japan. There were a Christian high school, Christian-based high school called Doshisha, and in Kyoto, and they had some exchange students staying here in Lower Mainland, and one day a group of them were brought here. And the first thing they said, it was funny because the first thing he said as they entered the temple was, it smells like incense in here. They said, natsukashi. It felt good to them. I guess they were away from home for a couple of weeks, and so having something familiar to them was good. And I explained to them how we sometimes chant in English, and I actually had them chant, not the Shoshinge, but the Jusege. We chanted in English, and I asked them, what did they think? And it was interesting because a couple of the girls, they were actually quite good in English. They were studying, I guess, homestay and studying English. And so they were able to chant along, and they said, in all these years that I've gone to temples with my family, this was the one that I understood the most, even though English is not the native language, right? But they said they could actually look at the words and understand what it means. So that I found very interesting, that Japanese even don't understand the chanting of what we traditionally chant. But when you read the English words, they can sort of make sense of it. But what I wanted to point out today, in this Shoshinge that we just, so the reason why we chanted Shoshinge today in English is that next week is our Hoonko service. And Hoonko is a memorial for Shinran Shonin. And of course, for Jodo Shinshu followers, the most important service of the year. In fact, in Japan, from the 9th to the 16th, right? Today is the 15th. So I guess tomorrow will be the final day of the Honko at the Honganji. And so from the 9th to the 15th of every year, they have many events going on at the Honganji. I've mentioned them before, but one of them is in the morning of the 13th. They have a special service, and it starts off at 6:30 in the morning. So 6:30 in the morning in Kyoto in January can be very cold, right? Actually, probably about similar to our temperature here. But you have to realize in the Hondo, there's no central heating. So if it's 4 or 5 degrees outside, it's maybe 3 degrees inside, very cold, right? So on the 13th, morning of the 13th, they have what they call the reading of the Godensho. And what the Godensho is a life history of Shinran Shonin that was written by his great-grandson. And so it's a very solemn occasion. And what they do is they, after they have the morning service, then they have this reading of the Godensho. And they turn off all the lights in the Hondo. So 6:30, well, by then it's probably a little after 7. It's still quite dark outside. And they have using the wado, the Japanese candles that we had used sometimes, with the very large flames. They read by candlelight this life history of Shinran. And it takes about an hour and a half to read. And the minister who's chosen to read it every year, it's supposed to be a great honor, but it's also a lot of pressure because he's reading it in front of all these people. And it's written, read sort of like how we read the Gobunsho letters. So there's a certain melody to it, the reading of it. And even though the Hondo might be 2 to 3 degrees in temperature, you can see steam coming out of the minister that's reading it because he's so enthralled in reading it. So they have that on the 13th. And then on the eve of I guess it would have been this evening. Yeah, this evening, they have what they call the Otaya service. We have what we called it the Honko Eve service, but the night before the Honko, they have a 24-hour Dharma marathon where they have ministers from across Japan come and they take turns giving Dharma talks for 24 hours. So people go with their comforters and they stay up all night listening to Dharma talks. But anyways, so we chanted this Shoshinge because this was a chant that was written by Shinran Shonin, and it became popular or chanted on a daily basis at the time of Renyo Shonin. So Shinran's scrolls to the right of the altar and Renyo's to the left. And Renyo is known as the 8th abbot of Jodo Shinshu. And until his time, there was another chant that was chanted daily, but it was chanted it was broken up into 6 parts, and one had to chant each part 6 different times during the day. So you can imagine how dedicated you have to be to have service 6 times a day, right? So instead, when Renyo Shonin came in as the abbot, he said, let's simplify this and let's chant something that Shinran Shonin had written. So until then, they were chanting something actually that was written by Shantao or Zendo Daishi, one of the 7 patriarchs. So this is when Shoshinge became regularly chanted on a daily basis. So in Japan, it is chanted every morning at the Hongaji and temples throughout Japan. And so today we chanted the English translation of that, their English version of that. And what I wanted to point out was if you open your red books to page 109, well, maybe I'll bring it up on. So for the people on Zoom, I'm just going to bring it up. Where did I go? Excuse me for, just give me a couple of seconds here. Okay, I'm just going to bring it up again. Where is that? I apologize, everyone, for the time it's taking it, but just bear with me for just a second here. Okay. So I'm going to just share it with the people on Zoom as well. So if you didn't print it out. Okay. So on page 109, you see there's two stanzas, number 22 and number 23. These are on one of the seven great masters. His name was Tao Cho, or in Japanese we say Doshaku Zenji. And it says here, Tao Cho discerned on the noble path, attainment is hard to confirm, and clarified the Pure Land as the sole way to break through. Criticize self-power practice of the myriad good works, and urge us only to recite the perfectly virtuous name. He kindly taught us faith's aspects, pure mind, single and constant, guides us as the Dharma declines toward outward form and extinction. Meeting the all-embracing vow, though doing evil all our lives, we reach the world of nurturing peace, realizing the fruit of enlightenment. Even if it's in English, you need explanation for this because without it, you won't understand what the heck this is talking about. So, Tao Cho, or Doshaku, is known as one of the seven patriarchs. He is the fourth of the seven patriarchs. His scroll is on the very far left of the altar, and he's the fifth one down. But in his teachings, what he was talking about is the correct teaching for the time and place. Okay, so everything has to have the right timing and the right place. Right? Some things are not meaningful if they're not, if they don't have the right time or space. That is the same with the Dharma. So sometimes I can give a Dharma talk, and I myself might feel, that wasn't really the best Dharma talk. But after the service, somebody might come up to me and say, "Oh, Sensei, I really like today's Dharma talk. It really hit me right here." And that means that, you see, that for that person, that was the right talk at that time. Whatever they were thinking of, whatever they were worried about, or it might have been something that they were concerned about, it connected with them, basically. And so Tao Cho said the Dharma has to connect. And so during this time, so in the Buddhist teachings, we talk about different periods or eras. And some, the first 500 years after the Buddha passed away, we call it the right Dharma age. And right Dharma age meant that there are people that were practicing the teachings, following the teachings. The teachings exist. There are people that are practicing it, and people that were attaining enlightenment, just like the Buddha did. Then for the next 1,000 years, it's said that there's what we call the semblance Dharma age. Semblance Dharma age. And what this period is that the teachings exist and people are practicing, but they're basically going through the motions only. And so they, during this period, they do a lot of things like building pagodas and temples, sort of outwardly looking like they're devout. But in fact, very few are truly taking it to heart, and very few are attaining enlightenment. And then finally, what we call the last Dharma age is when the teachings exist, but even fewer are now truly following the teachings, and almost impossible to attain enlightenment. So in this stanza 23, if you go back, it says, the second line says, guides us as the Dharma declines towards outward form and extinction. This is talking about that, those periods, okay? So he says that during this last period, the true teaching is the Nembutsu, the Pure Land teachings, because you don't have to be a monk or a nun. It can be received by anybody as we are. It's the working of Amida Buddha. So this becomes a very important teaching during this period. And so for us, when we listen to the teachings, this is why the Nembutsu teaching is so important, because it is the right time and place for it. Okay? If I asked all of you to become monks and nuns, I'm sure none of you would want to do that. But in this time and age, this is a teaching that is perfectly adapted for it. And so that's why we're said that the Nembutsu teaching is the proper teaching. And so as we chant this English Shoshinge, it is another way of learning for us what Shinran Shonin has said. And it is important, I think, for us to learn. And if you're interested in learning more about this, on Tuesday nights, we've been having a lecture series, and I'm going to start actually, it was supposed to be a lecture series on the Shoshinge, but I spent the first 5 sessions of an introduction, and we're about to finally get into the text itself. So if you're interested, please join us on Tuesday night at 7:30. We do it on Zoom, and there's one person that actually comes in person as well. But if you're interested, please let me know, and I can send you the link for that as well. But so for us as Jodo Shinshu followers, Shinran Shonin showed us a path through the 7 patriarchs, a path for all beings, whether lay or monastic, all beings to receive the Buddhist teachings, the compassion of Buddha. And so out of deep gratitude, we hold annually the Ho'onko service, which will be next week. And also, we hold services such as today's to express our gratitude and our appreciation. So I'd like to just close with the recitation of the Nembutsu or Gassho. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. So this will conclude this morning's service. I thank you all for attending. Just to let you know, so next week we will be having our Ho'onko weekend on the Saturday at 3 p.m. We're very happy because last year we actually had Ochi Sensei join us, but online only. And it's always nice to be able to have somebody here in person. And so I thought it'd be nice to invite him actually in person. So he's going to be here, and on Saturday at 3 o'clock, he's going to be giving a Ho'onko lecture. And then right after the lecture from 5 o'clock, we'll have our potluck, Ho'onko potluck dinner. We're not going to be having Ho'onko Eve service because instead of that, we're having the 3 o'clock lecture. So people can go home after dinner if you want. Okay. I think if we have the service after dinner, people tend to fall asleep because it's right after dinner. So we'll have the lecture at 3 will take place. We'll have a short service at the beginning of the lecture, and that'll be in place of the Ho'onko Eve service. And then, of course, on Ho'onko Day, on the Sunday, we'll have the children's service at 10 o'clock, and then the joint Japanese English at 10:30, and then following that we'll have the luncheon. We almost didn't get the multi-purpose room because next Sunday is also Chinese New Year's apparently, and they were trying to get the dragon dancers, but fortunately they were unable to get it for Sunday, so we have usage of the multi-purpose room. So I don't know if we'll have any here, but if you go to the Chinese temple next Sunday, it will be very busy because of the Chinese New Year. Okay, so if you're coming down Stetson Highway, make sure you either come very early or you might have to go up a little ways to come here because the one on Stetson Highway I know gets very busy during the New Year's. Okay, so thank you very much for attending, and thank you to those who attended by Zoom as well. This will conclude the English service. No. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you. See you.
Sensei.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei.